Before creating the front piece, let me first discuss the fabric issue related to it. In the video, all 4 fabric pieces shown are parts of the front piece. The upper pieces are the left and right lining pieces. The lower pieces are the left and right outer fabric pieces. When I was sketching, I drew everything on the back side of the fabric. So now we have the fabric facing up. One side of this fabric piece has buttonholes at the top. Everyone can see. When sketching this piece with buttonholes, we need to remember that the lining and the outer fabric should be reversed. If you're not very clear about this front and back relationship, then that's fine. Just draw it as shown in my video right now. What you create will match the position in my finished product image. Make sure to draw on the back side of the fabric. Next, let's work on the collar. For the collar, I'm using twill fabric. This twill fabric is not very thick. It's a slightly thinner twill fabric. The fabric underneath is regular cotton with a high thread count, 60 count fabric. If both layers use twill fabric, I think it might be a bit thick, so I used a layer of high-density cotton. You only need to draw on one piece of fabric. Then pay attention. This issue has 2 collars. The other collar has 4 corners. This collar has only these 2 pointed corners. When we sew to the corner positions later, we need to put a thread in. The purpose of laying the thread is for when we flip it over later, the angles will be sharper and look nicer. Regular sewing thread used for general stitching will suffice. And the collar I'm making now only has 2 corners. I just need to prepare 2 threads. If you're working on those 4 corners, you should use 4 threads. While sewing, we extend the starting point outwards by 5 millimeters. Sew from this point along the guide to this spot. Then extend another 5 millimeters outward. Now let's begin sewing. The other collar is probably around this position. It has an angle. When we reach that collar, when you get to this position, remember to insert the thread. Please refer to the method for threading. Just a moment. I'm arriving at this collar with my car. The method is the same for the position below. It's just that the locations are different. Okay, I've now arrived at the position right in front of this corner. Make sure to remember to stop at the position right in front. At this moment, our needle is inserted into the fabric. Then we take this sewing thread, insert it between the 2 layers of fabric. Since the needle is through the fabric, so you hold both ends of the thread with your hands. When inserting it, you will feel that the thread is caught by the needle. At this point, we release our grip, then continue to take 1 stitch forward. You can only take 1 stitch and not more. And this stitch must be exactly at this corner position. If you're slightly off or too much, you can do it manually. That means to manually lift the corner and move the needle forward. Just place the stitch exactly at the corner. Next, we adjust the direction based on the line. Simultaneously, pull both ends of this line tight. Give it a slight pull outward. Check if you can pull this line out. Typically, this line is already behind our needle. It cannot be pulled out. If it can be pulled out, it indicates that your steps are incorrect. When it is confirmed that the line is jammed, in the situation where it cannot be pulled out, we tuck this line towards the back like this. Then continue driving forward. When the car reaches the second corner, stop, just like when you reach the front marker. Next, we just need to repeat the previous steps. I won't explain this part. There are several places to cut corners anyway. We'll just follow a few steps for this. Follow the lines to finish the remaining seams. Once done, we'll cut the collar from the fabric. This is the line we just sewed. We leave a 3mm seam. The edges can be trimmed with pinking shears because the edges have a slight curve. If you don't have pinking shears, use regular scissors. You can make some notches at the curved areas. Then we didn't remove this position in the middle just now. Leave a 5mm seam at this position and cut it off, like this right angle position. That is the position where we just marked the line. You can also trim it a little bit, but because we have wires here, that means you need to be a bit careful when cutting. If you're not sure, you can also choose not to cut. Anyway, you must not cut the wires inside. After cutting, we flip it over directly. When it is flipped over, we should pay attention when pulling the line outward. You must pull both ends of the line outward simultaneously. If you only pull one end, you will directly pull this line out. It won't have any effect. When pulling it out, you can take a look. This angle is definitely better than when you don't let the line go. It looks much better. This approach. Sometimes when people sit in corner seats, it can actually be placed there. Then everyone can give this collar a quick press. Make it a bit smoother. Here's the collar that I've already pressed, the top part of this collar. There might be a small roll at the edge like this. After we turn it inside out, this extra seam part of it, you can simply trim it along the edge. Then if the sisters who are good at pulling the bright thread, they can check the bright thread all around this area. It will be more uniform. If you don't want to check the bright thread, you just need to iron it well. Say it again. We need to thread the ribbon through this collar. So before we do this ribbon for the car, we can first draw a guideline. I am 5mm from the edge of the collar to draw some guidelines for it. So down here, we just use magnets as usual. Draw a 5mm line. Then there is curvature on both sides, the areas with curvature. You can't draw well with a magnet. You can take out our original material, draw it like this to align it properly. There's a circle along this edge. I pulled the thread a little at the back. Now let's work on the ribbon above. I suggest using alcohol glue for the ribbon first. Then we'll stitch the thread onto this ribbon. Of course, if your skills are sufficient, you can also sew it directly together. I first applied some alcohol-based glue here. Then, when we use the alcohol glue, make sure to be careful. You can use a toothpick or use something small. To take this alcohol glue, because our ribbon is thin, and if you have a lot, it will overflow. The ribbon I used here, it's about a bit more than 2mm, around 3mm. It should be just under 3mm, around 2mm. Using a 3mm ribbon or a wider one works as well. It mainly depends on your personal preference. We will follow the lines we drew earlier. The outer edge of this guideline, let's stick this ribbon. Here we found some toothpicks. Just use these small cotton buds. Mix a little alcohol-based glue for it. The right side position. Put on a small amount of it. You must not apply too much. The alcohol glue dries fairly quickly. There's no need to apply it all at once. You can apply it in sections and then squeeze. We keep applying it. Stop at this position where you have pinched to a right angle. We are on the ribbon. Gently apply a little glue to it. Just put a little glue at this right angle position. Then continue painting along the edge of the red line. After applying the paint adhesive, we fold this ribbon to the right. After folding it this way to form a corner, then stick it forward. When sticking to this corner, we will repeat the step we just did. Put a little glue at the tip of the ribbon. Then fold the ribbon to the right. Continue following the line. Finally, at the center of the ribbon, just draw a line over it. My ribbon is quite narrow. Just one line is enough. If you're using a wider ribbon, you can draw 2 lines. Finally, let's iron this to make the ribbon a bit smoother. By the way, I'm using this silk ribbon here because I'm using a small brush, so I can't see the line measurement in the middle anymore. Here, I will measure the style line. I will draw it again. This ring around the screen opening, then this part will be kept for later use. Let's work on the sleeve section. This position on the bottom edge needs to be tucked. Here I'm folding along 2 lines. It's right on the design line. The areas are 2 millimeters on the left and 2 millimeters on the right. Withdraw 1 line of folded line for each. The line area of the folded line can be slightly expanded. The one I'm using here is 4. Then do not backstitch at both the beginning and the end. After properly pulling the line, we tighten both bases simultaneously. Pull out the pleat. The size of the pleat we pull out matches the size of the cuff section. Adjust the length and uniformity of the pleat. The pleats can be relatively focused in the middle. After the adjustments are made, we will sew them together face to face. After sewing, turn it to the front to check for any issues with the pleat. If there are no issues, directly remove the basting line we just made. Then we fold the bottom edge of this flat seam upwards. Fold it to the reverse side. After folding it once, fold it upwards again. The folded part should just cover the thread we just took out. Then we flip it to the front side. In this part, we need to sew a clear line to secure it. After removing the basting stitches, we prepare a ribbon. In the middle part of the cuff, we will add a ribbon. If you're worried about not doing it well, you can do it as before. Use a small amount of alcohol glue to fix it first. Then take it off. There are 2 sleeves. Everyone should repeat the steps on their own. After finishing, we will fold this part of the sleeve. Locate its center point and make a mark on the back. Next, let's create this panel in front of the chest. Here we will first fold the fabric in half. The folded part is the front side of the fabric. The side facing up is the back side. Align the top part of the chest block pattern. Align it with the crease we have. You can trim off the excess fabric first. Next, we will outline the lines around this area. When taking out the seams, you don't need to remove the creased sections. We will take out from this position over to here. Then we need to leave a notch here. It's approximately a 1 centimeter notch. We won't sew, except for the position of the back seam. For the remaining areas, we'll sew along the red line. After completing, trim a bit. Leave a 5 millimeter seam allowance at the back seam position. For the other positions, a 3 millimeters allowance is sufficient. The seam at the shoulder and foot can be trimmed diagonally. After trimming, turn it to the reverse side from the opening. After turning it over, everyone should organize and iron it flat. You can secure it with a basting stitch along the edge. If you don't want to use a basting stitch, simply iron it flat. Then we position ourselves at the top. Also, draw a 5 millimeter guideline for it. Then, following this position, we secure the ribbon. The prepared baffle is also set aside as a backup. Sew the pointed seams together with their front sides facing each other. After sewing, we unfold the fabric. Smooth or iron the pointed seam area. They can be spread apart to both sides. The front and back pieces of the lining are done the same way. Everyone can repeat the steps on their own. Next, we will take the back piece of the fabric. Fold the neckline at this position, find its center point, and make a mark. Take out the collar that was made earlier. Also, fold it in half. Find the center point of the collar and make a mark. Both of these marking points are made on the front side of the fabric. Then we will align these two marking points together. You can use a bamboo needle to secure it. Then the position at the front of the collar. We need to build up this point. I'll draw on the front for it. It's the position of the corner on its back. You can also mark it on the front. It will be a bit more obvious. The text on the right is located here. Make sure to mark it on the front as well. Then when we begin, align it and stitch it this way. The top of the thread is exactly at this marking point. Follow the upper and lower lines to continue sewing forward. Sew to the middle position. The marking points on both sides also need to be aligned. Finally, align the position with this marking point. You can also outline the line around the collar. It helps us align when unpicking seams. Now we will officially begin unpicking the seams. Be attentive while sewing. Regardless of whether it's the fabric beneath or the collar above, all should be facing upwards. This is how it looks after finishing the removal. Then we take out the collar fabric we prepared earlier. Place the right sides together and overlap them. While sewing, we keep the outer fabric facing up. This time we will begin sewing from the front hem, but when stitching around the collar, we need to follow this. We need to stitch 1 millimeter to the left of the line we just removed. This way we won't expose the stitching from our first side seam. We will probably start the side seam from this position at the front. The position is somewhat in the middle. Then retreat. There is a sharp corner in this area. There is also a sharp corner in this area. You should place the sewing thread in these two positions. Then continue straight to this corner. This corner can either have or not have good sewing thread. Then go to this corner. This corner should also be included. Finally, just return to this position. Insert the line. The goal is to discuss this angle. We will look better after flipping. It's fine if you don't insert the line. It's simply that you're not inserting the line. Then the corners you turn out will be a bit rounder. Everyone makes decisions based on the actual circumstances. The method for placing the line is the same as when we worked on the collar, so I won't explain it here. Proceed directly with the operation. And then there's this area. This position. When we drive, we need to follow the line like this. But there's a sharp corner here that can easily be hit by the car, so we can trim the seams a little here. Just trim this sharp corner of the seam. The other side is the same. Don't cut into the fabric that is not for the seam. Then we continue to move forward. Anyway, just follow the line. Then just remember the positions where you need to place the thread. After sewing, just trim the seams a bit. This is when we are trimming the seams. If you're afraid of cutting the threads inside, you can open the seam like this to check. Trim the upper and lower layers in 2 sessions. This way, it's less likely that we will accidentally cut the middle line. Then we will adjust several angles. We will slightly refine all the seams here. Next, we will make a cut at this position. The cut here needs to be done properly. If you haven't done it correctly, there might be a slight wrinkle here after we flip it over. For the remaining part of the neckline, I just used lace to cut it directly. If you don't have pinking shears, just use regular scissors to make the cut. Next, we will take out the sleeve. The sleeve is attached at the armhole on the front side. Make sure not to attach it incorrectly. It should be attached to the front side. We start driving from this side, then we adjust along the curve. When the vehicle reaches the point, this is the marker point we just made. It needs to be aligned with it. So this mark mainly helps us during sewing to fit it more neatly. Now let's start sewing. When sewing, ensure the right sides face each other. Adjust the curve while sewing. Then use the same method to sew the other side of the sleeve. Both sleeves have been completed. Now let's work on the side seam at the bottom of this formal fabric sleeve cap. Align them face to face. Sew along the stitching line. The position on the other side is the same. After sewing, unfold the front and back pieces. We are now pinching the front and back pieces of the fabric together. Sew the side seam that connects to the sleeve. The other side is the same. Repeat the operation. After sewing, make a few buttonholes at the underarm positions on both sides. After finishing the buttonhole, I usually think this side has more style, so I'll trim it a bit. Finally, we will spread it out a bit. Earlier, didn't we sew a bit extra on the front piece at the neckline step? We will fill in the space between these two markers. That means to directly move from this point to that point. During the stitching process, there are two working positions. They should all be spread apart to both sides. Then align the top and bottom positions. Then we turn the entire garment inside out from the location of this embroidery frame. After the garment has been turned inside out, we need to address these edges and corners, and we need to smooth out the collar and all these areas to make it even smoother. A good suggestion from experienced seamstresses is to pay attention to the collar. Additionally, remove the serger stitches from the front opening and the hem. If sisters are not very confident with the serger, they should at least remove the serger stitches from the collar's bottom. This will help the lining to be smoother. Next, we focus on the left side of the collar. It has a marking point. You can mark this point according to the position indicated on the drawing. Then we take out the chest block we prepared earlier. Align.
Here, let's work on the skirt part. We will make the skirt according to the measurements given on the pattern. Then add seam allowances to the top. No seam allowances are needed on the left. Only the top and bottom require. Then we start from the far left. The first two lines are spaced 7 millimeters Except for the first two lines, we draw the other lines according to the spacing distances given. Just fill them all in. If the remaining part is too little or too much, don't worry about it. It's okay, because I originally reserved a little extra size for this. We will trim the reserved size after finishing the pleats. Here, first fold the bottom edge inward to finish the edge. Because I forgot earlier, actually, I only trimmed this edge after folding. Everyone should try to trim the edges directly at this step. If you operate after folding, it definitely won't be as smooth. Here, directly fold the bottom edge inward along the wound line. Then just mark a visible line on its front side. For the fold line here, I use 1 millimeter on my side, but actually you can also mark 3 or 5 millimeters. It depends on your own preference. Here, after changing the thread, we start counting from the top once at the third line. After folding, leave a gap in the middle. Then align it like this at the 5th line. Then continue folding at the 6th line. Leave a space in the middle and align to the position of the 8th line. Next, fold along the 9th line. Leave a space in the middle and align to the position of the 11th line. Keep repeating the steps like this. Pinch out this fold. Here I pinch and sew at the same time. You can pinch and sew at the same time, or you can pinch it while ironing. Then you don't have to sew immediately. How exactly do you make this fold? Everyone can choose according to their own preferences. For example, I have watched some short videos for instance, using that kind of fruit scrubber, or something like that. In other words, there are many methods. As long as you can make this fold, it's fine. Here, when I sew the side seam, it is at a spot slightly to the right of this because it is the collar's fixed line. So everyone should not align exactly with the style line. The position where the fold line goes to the left will have to be disassembled. The total number of folds needed is written on the blueprint. But if your doll is different from my base model, thinner than my kid, or rather fatter than my kid, then the number of folds you have might need to be appropriately increased or decreased. Otherwise, after we finish it later, there might be a possibility of easily falling off. After finishing the turning, count the folds. Start counting from this position. Keep counting until it meets what is specified on our blueprint. This number is fine. For instance, this one I'm working on now, it has 15 folds. The edge of the last fold is at this position. We move it 1.5 centimeters to the right. Then we trim off the excess part. Here, the 1.5 centimeters happens to be the second line. Then I'll cut along this line. Next, we press the fold. Here, just follow the line above. Then press it downwards to smooth it out. Here, because I'm using a size 6 small pen, I have to be more careful when pressing it. Otherwise, I might accidentally press off the horizontal stitches in other areas. It's just hard to see clearly. Personally, I don't recommend using the water-based because here we have heat-set creases. If you use the water-based, then after washing, it might need to be heat-set again. If you don't mind the trouble, there's no problem at all. After all the pleats are steamed and pressed, it looks like this. Here I changed the fabric. The method of making it is the same. We fold the seam area on the left over to the right seam side. The dimensions at this position on both sides are the same. It's basically between 1.4 to 1.5 Flip it back centimeters. To the front. This position on the left side looks a bit larger, but actually there's a fold here. So we need to look from the back to compare the standard. Make sure the seams at these two positions are consistent. In a moment, we'll fold both side edges inward about 7 millimeters. Then, when we finish it like this at the end, we'll overlap this part together. After sewing the snap buttons, this part of the folds will also be needed. Next, we take out this part of the waistband and align it with the front side of the skirt. We determine the waistband size based on the measurements, then add the seam allowance and cut it off. Because at the waistband, I normally leave a 5 millimeter I don't leave extra, but for the hem at the bottom, the start and end positions, I leave a 7 millimeter seam allowance. So when everyone is sewing, You don't have to align with this initial edge position, but align with our sewing line. During sewing, pay attention to the folds underneath. Don't pull them apart. Even the seams are sewn both at the top and bottom, because we do need to stretch this after all. Some sisters might say there are some thread fraying issues, or sometimes the pleats aren't folded very precisely. This might cause a slight deviation in the size of the skirt hem, so I have left some allowance for the waistband size. When we are sewing near the end, just trim off the excess parts directly. After cutting, we unfold the waistband area. You can press this part with an iron. I'll first scrape it a bit with my fingernail, then fold the waistband downwards. Make sure not to get the direction wrong. You fold it straight down on the front side. When folding, we use this edge as the seam line. Align the waistband with the seam position we just stitched on the skirt hem. Then we sew down along this stitch line. There are two methods for the side seam here. One method is to directly sew the waistband part. Sew up to this point and stop. If all the stitching is done, after we flip it over later, this position will be like this. There is no need to do any more gathering. You only need to stitch along the visible line on the front side. So if you choose this method, then in this step, you can first lock this edge, which means to do a line lock. Another method is to measure up to here. If you measure halfway to the stitching line, then after we flip it over later, this part still needs to be folded inward like this. After folding inward, we then flip it to the front and sew along to secure this part. This method is a bit more delicate. You can extend the seam, but turning it to the front to sew the top stitch will be more difficult, and it will also be a bit thicker. The first method is a bit simpler, but since the seam is visible, therefore, no other method is more refined. So everyone can choose according to their actual situation which method exactly to use. Now, before we start the official stitching, you can first trim the seam allowance part slightly. Leaving about 3 millimeters is enough. After trimming, we return to the position mentioned earlier to sew the seam allowance part of the side. I'll be a bit lazy here. I'm using the first method. Sew everything up directly. Note that when we sew the side seam, we need to align it with the seam line below, because there is also stitching on this skirt hem. The seam allowances on the top and bottom are consistent. After sewing, trim the seam. Then we sew the other end of the waistband. The method here is the same. Trim it after cutting. After trimming, use tweezers to help flip it over. Flip out this right angle. Do the same on the other side. After flipping both ends properly, let's tidy and steam press this side, then turn it to the front side. At the edge here, secure it completely to the top. I have already basted the top stitching. Next are the two sides. Make sure the two sides are completely aligned. Fix it with 3 to 5 millimeters. Both sides are the same. After the visible stitching is done, the reverse side looks like this. Then we finally sew a hidden snap on the back. This skirt is now finished. Okay.
Before making the bow tie, we first prepare a small piece of fabric. This piece of fabric is the same color as our bow tie. I cut this piece a bit larger without a specific size. If you don't want to cut this much, at least cut it to about 2 by 3 centimeters. Just fold it in half and iron it. After folding, we have this edge that measures 3 centimeters. This is the edge of that specific length. Then we fold it and draw a line 5 millimeters up from that point. For the following steps, we have 2 methods. One method involves flipping over. One method does not involve flipping over. I'll first explain the method that doesn't require flipping over. If it is not flipped, so we are drawing lines on the front side of the fabric. The side that's folded in is the back of the fabric. Then we can simply follow this line and sew it up. After finishing the sewing, trim slightly. Leave a gap of about 2 to 3 millimeters. Next, we fold down the sewn part. That is to say, we shouldn't flip it over. Just hide the seam at the back. Use the iron to smooth it out a bit. You can't see the seam from the front. This method is more suitable for those who prefer not to flip it. After all, flipping this 5 millimeters does present some difficulty. Now let's discuss another way to flip it. Here, we also fold and iron. However, we are folding in the right side of the fabric. The wrong side is facing up. Then we prepare a thinner and narrower ribbon, about 2 to 3 millimeters wide. It definitely cannot be too wide because our line is 5 millimeters thick. If it's too wide, you might step on the line. The ribbon should be slightly longer than our fabric. Then place it in the innermost spot. Then we move down from the top position. Then follow the line. This means one side needs to be sealed. During sewing, aside from this initial section, then the thread we are using cannot be pulled back to the middle ribbon. After pulling it back properly, trim it for sewing. Leave about 2 to 3 millimeters. Pay attention to this part at the end of the ribbon. Don't cut the ribbon too short. Just leave a section like I did. Because when it's cut too short, when we pull it, it's easy to pull this ribbon out. After trimming, proceed to sew. We pull the ribbon from the unsealed side. While pulling, we should pull the fabric back with our left hand. This means we need to manage the left end of the ribbon. Stuck in the fabric? But because this area is quite narrow, so when everyone turns it over, you need more patience. I've tried flipping it over a few times, and it was fine. If you feel this task, you are unable to complete it, then don't flip it over. Just follow the first method described above. Just conceal the seam at the back. Because ultimately, if we finish the product, the stitching at the back is invisible. After flipping it to the right side, we cut off the initial part, then this part is kept aside for now. In this episode, we made 2 types of bow ties, and this is the first one. This is bow tie 1 from our design. First, draw the pattern on the back side of the fabric. Then cut a piece of fabric that is roughly the same size. Stack them face to face. The top position, we're going to put a ribbon. If you want to put in some elastic bands or anything else is fine. Basically, we just need to attach it neatly at the back of the collar. I have a ribbon here that is about 2 millimeters wide. You can prepare the ribbon to be about 10 centimeters long. Later, we'll let the kid try it out. Then you think it's too long, just trim it down. The ribbon should go between the 2 layers of fabric. I'll measure it from above. It's probably around this spot. The short one is on the right. Also, when sewing, you need to leave a back opening. I probably leave it at this spot, about 1 centimeter, and this corner. When we sew, we can insert a thread. After flipping it over this way, the position of this sharp corner, it will look a bit nicer. When making the collar, I have already explained the method of marking lines, so I won't explain it here again. Let's proceed directly with the operation. Now let's start unpicking the stitches. Start from this marked point at the bottom. Remember to stop at the stitch before the sharp corner. Put the thread inside. Then, when you sew to this end, put the ribbon inside. Then sew to another marked point, and you can stop. After finishing, trim a bit for the seaming. For curved areas, you can use lace scissors. If you don't have lace scissors, just use ordinary scissors to make the cuts. Leave a 5mm seam at the reverse opening position because the ribbon in the front comes out from this side, so about this side. We need to tuck the ribbon back in first to avoid cutting the ribbon. Additionally, this section of the short ribbon at the top, we can split the stitching here into 2 layers for cutting. In other words, we should not cut the middle ribbon too short because this ribbon, if you cut it short, it can easily come apart. Maybe after we turn it over, pull it a bit, the ribbon just fell out. We typically leave one at other places. A seam of about 3mm will do. After trimming, turn it inside out from the opening. After turning it inside out, tidy the edges and corners. Press it lightly. Sew the reverse opening using a long needle technique. Then we need to prepare 2 of this part. First, fold one of them towards the front side. The part that is folded in is the front side. Then fold the upper part towards the back side. The bottom part is also folded towards the back. Then we pinch this position tightly. Using QQ thread or ordinary thread, wrap this tightly and tie a knot. There's no need to tie a knot with QQ thread. Just pull it tight and break it off. The front side looks like this after processing. Then we tied it at this position. You can adjust it according to your preference. Before making the bow tie, we first prepare a small piece of fabric. This fabric is the same color as our bow tie. I cut this piece randomly, and it's a bit larger. If you don't want to cut this much, you should at least cut a piece that is about 2 by 3 centimeters. Just fold it in half and press it. After folding, this edge measures 3 centimeters. This is the length of this side. Then we fold up 5mm and draw a line. For the next steps, we have 2 methods. One method requires flipping. One method does not require flipping. Let me first explain the method that does not require flipping. If we are not flipping, then we are currently drawing lines on the front side of the fabric. The side that is folded in is the reverse of the fabric. Then we can just follow this line to complete it. After finishing, trim the seam slightly. Leave about 2 to 3 millimeters. Next, we fold this part of the seam down. That means we shouldn't flip it over. Just hide the seam at the back. Press it a bit to make it wake up. The seam isn't visible from the front. This method is better for those who prefer not to flip it over. After all, flipping this 5mm does present some challenges. Now let's discuss another way to flip it. Here we are also folding and pressing. However, we are folding in the front side of the fabric. The side that is facing up is the back side. Then we prepare a thinner and finer ribbon. About 2 to 3 millimeters wide. It definitely can't be too wide because our line is 5mm. If it's too wide, you'll step on the line. The ribbon needs to be slightly longer than our fabric. Then place it in the innermost part. Then we get off from the top position, then follow the line. This means one side of this needs an air outlet. When sewing apart from this initial part, then this thread we tied cannot be removed to the middle ribbon. Once completed, trim it for sewing. Leave about 2 to 3 millimeters. Pay attention to this part at the end of the ribbon. Don't cut the ribbon too short. Just leave a piece like I did, because when it's cut too short, when we pull it, it's easy to pull this ribbon out. After trimming, sew. We pull the ribbon on the side without the opening outward. While pulling, we need to pull the fabric back with our left hand. That is to tuck the end of the left ribbon into the fabric. However, this position is quite narrow. Therefore, everyone needs to be more patient while flipping it over. I tried flipping it over a few times and had no issues. If you think you can't complete this operation, then just don't flip it over. Just follow the first method mentioned earlier. Just hide the stitches at the back. Because when we finally make the finished product, the style behind it is invisible. After turning it right side out, we cut off the initial part. Then this part is set aside for now. Now we create the bow tie labeled as bow tie 2 in the drawing. This is made up of 2 parts. We draw it out separately on the fabric. Then a reverse opening should be left. It's roughly at this position shown in the video. Leave a reverse opening of 1 centimeter. Then stitch from one point of the reverse opening to another. This pointed position at the upper right. If you want it to look nicer after flipping it over, you can insert a thread inside. The method for inserting the thread, we mentioned this when making the collar. I won't explain here, just show the operation. Then we sew together 2 pieces of fabric, one on top of the other. Sew them together with the front sides facing each other. Next, sew the other piece. In this piece, a ribbon should be placed at both ends. You can also use elastic bands or other lace-like materials. The main purpose is to serve as a metal lead behind the neck. Here, I am using a 2 millimeter ribbon. When removing the stitches, the short side should face the seam. The longer side can be positioned at the reverse edge. This way, when we remove stitches to other locations, it's difficult to pull out this ribbon. After pulling it out, trim it for sewing. First, trim the ends that have the ribbon. Do not trim the ribbon. It's okay to let it be a little longer. We only trim this seam. Trim the seam into 2 layers, top and bottom. Do not cut the ribbon. Leave about 3 millimeters for the seam. The other end is the same. The remaining areas can be cut with pinking shears due to their curves. But do not use pinking shears on the reverse opening. Then leave a 5 millimeter seam allowance at the reverse opening. When cutting to the reverse opening, be careful not to cut through both layers. Either stuff the ribbon back in first. Just don't cut the ribbon while trimming. The other one should be trimmed the same way. After trimming, turn these 2 parts inside out. All should be turned inside out from the opening. After flipping it over, tidy up the edges and corners. Then press it flat. Sew the opening using a long needle technique. After tidying up, we take one piece and fold it in half. Then fold the top part back. The bottom part is also folded back. Pinch this position with your hand. Then use the QQ line to tightly secure this side. If you don't have QQ line, just tie a knot with regular string. The other piece is also processed in the same way. Then we place these 2 parts side by side. Align them centrally. Pinch them together like this. Similarly, use a string to secure the middle part. After tightening, we use the strip we prepared earlier. Wrap the middle area. Secure the back position with adhesive. Trim off the excess yourself. Once you finish this part, if you want the positions on both sides to be more closely aligned, then we can sew them together at the bottom. If you don't want them so close, you can skip sewing. If you don't sew, you can use an iron to press them together. If we're going to sew, we should press this side together at this spot. Then sew 2 stitches to secure it. I haven't tied a knot here yet. I'll just turn it over to show you. If you enjoy being this close, then just go for it. Then stitch it yourself in the back. I am looking forward to it.